This morning, we're one-on-one with the chief of the NYPD, Terry Monahan. With overall crime figures at record lows, why is there a sudden spike in homicides in the city? As well, why the uptick in hate crimes? Plus, what measures are being taken by the NYPD in the aftermath of the friendly fire death of Detective Brian Simonson?
Now, from 42nd and 2nd, this is Pix 11 News Close-Up with Marvin Scott.
Good morning, everyone. Mayor de Blasio has proclaimed New York City the safest big city in America. And to back that up, he proudly displays last year's crime statistics that revealed the city had the lowest crime rate in decades, almost a record. But recently, there's been a spike in some crimes, notably homicides and hate crimes. It's difficult to police a city the size of New York. Nowhere, though, was the challenge of facing police officers sadly dramatized this past week than at the funeral of veteran detective Brian Simonson, who was killed by friendly fire while responding to a robbery in Queens. Now, overseeing the day-to-day operations of the 36,000 uniformed member department is its chief, Terry Monahan. He comes from a police family, and he's come up from the ranks of patrolman in the Bronx 37 years ago to now holding the highest ranking uniform officer in the NYPD. Thanks so much for coming in, Chief.
Thank you, Marvin. Appreciate it.
I have to ask you first, on behalf of all my colleagues, our condolences to the department for your loss of Detective Simonson.
He was a tremendous man. He's going to be truly missed in the one.
And it was a very moving funeral service, and what the Commissioner O'Neill had to say in his remarks. So let me ask you, it's now almost 2 weeks since that incident in Queens. Have you come any closer to understanding how it is that 7 police officers firing 42 shots in all of 11 seconds came to hit Officer, first of all, Sergeant Matt Gorman and Detective Simonson?
Right. Listen, it's something that we're going to have to take a long look at, just to look at where we were positioned, see what we can learn from it. You know, it's a tragic incident, but as the commissioner said, and I'll reiterate, it wasn't caused by the cops. It was caused by that individual that decided to go into a store, rob it with what appeared to be a gun, tie people up into a back room, and then come out simulating firing on those cops. Listen, you go into jobs on a regular basis as a cop, and you walk into an incident, and all of a sudden, you're not sure what you're going to go, and it goes from 0 to 60 in a second. You know, you walk in and all of a sudden someone's running at you, pointing a gun, simulating firing, you're reacting. You have seconds to make a reaction. You had numerous cops on the scene, they reacted. And I feel for every cop that was on that scene, they all feel that loss of Detective Simonson, and it's something that they're gonna live with forever. But it wasn't their fault. It's the fault of that individual that decided to go into that store with a gun that day.
Have you ascertained which of those officers fired that shot that killed Detective Simonson?
No, and we may never be able to ascertain that.
And if you do, would you inform that officer or not?
Yeah, we would, but just from looking at it, I don't think we'll ever be able to truly ascertain which officer was the one that actually fired that shot.
Now, what is the status of your investigation at this point? Where are you going? Are you? I know the commissioner talked about you were going to review training procedures. What has transpired?
Well, Chief Terry Shortell, she's the head of our training unit. She's going to be putting together a focus group. We're going to look at this incident and see what we can learn from it, how we can respond better, how we can train our cops better, how we can take this tragic incident and see how we can keep our cops safe to prevent something like this from happening again. Listen, again, I'm going to reiterate, this happens in seconds. To make a decision as a cop, it's what they do on a regular basis. You know, we can all sit back and take months to look at what happened in a matter of seconds. But this was a decision that they had to make in the light and in fear. You know, people don't understand. Cops get afraid. Someone's pointing a gun at you. Until you've had a gun pointed at you, I don't know if you truly understand that fear that's going through you at that moment. And you're reacting. And they're trying to get cover while trying to get rid of the threat. So it's a tough situation for the men and women that were on the scene that day.
This was the second friendly fire incident involving a police officer since December. Should there be a change, some reforms in training procedures?
That's exactly what Terry's going to look at. She's going to see what we can do to train better, how we can get cops to maybe go for cover a little bit better. There's a lot of different issues, and we're going to have to take some time to make sure we can keep our cops safe.
Okay, let's talk to the thing you're proudly talking about is the decrease in crime in New York, getting to lowest level in decades. That is quite an accomplishment and a tribute to your department. Yet in recent weeks, in the past couple of months of this year, there's been a spike, a 55% increase in homicides over a year ago. How do you explain that?
Well, we're looking at it, and again, you can take that homicides and you can look at it, and we dissect it left and right, everywhere to try and see, is there a trend going on? Is there a problem that we can't get a hold of? And as I look at this, I'm pretty sure we're going to get this under control because all our other indicators are in the right direction. You know, when we look at shootings around the city, and that to me is the biggest indicator, how many
That's
people
up
get
70%.
No, that's down. Shootings are down. Shootings are down year to date. We're down. We have 82 incidences this year compared to 85 last year. So we're down 3 shootings year to date. That's actually people shot throughout the city. I think you're looking at the homicides.
I'm looking at Brooklyn, I think.
Right,
It was
Brooklyn,
up 70%.
Yeah. Brooklyn has some issues. And that's where we're focusing a lot of attention on. And we're focusing a lot of our attention on gun violence in Brooklyn. And the ideas of individuals running around the streets with guns. We're meeting with Eric Gonzalez. I have a meeting with him again next week. I spoke to him again the other day. Some issues with prosecution on guns in Brooklyn. And it's something that we kind of feel very strongly about in the police department. Guns have to be prosecuted. Guns need to, if you're walking on the street with a gun, you're a moment away, a dispute away from what could turn into a homicide. So we've had a couple of issues with Brooklyn. Eric has been very receptive, so we're going to sit down and see if we can move a little bit closer to what we feel needs to be done.
Now, New York has some of the toughest gun control laws in the nation. Recently, the legislature even upped that, even made it stronger. What else do we need in New York to get rid of those guns, prevent them coming in from other states?
You know, we can work all we can to prevent from other states, but it's an individual who's willing to carry a gun on the street. That's what we need to focus on. That's a lot of the focus. That's the precision policing that we deal with. We want to get that individual, because if you're walking out on the street with a gun, illegal gun, tied to your side, there's a good chance you're going to get involved in some sort of violence. That's how homicides happen. You know, you have that gun, a dispute erupts on the street, it's right there, you take it out. That's what we need to prevent. So if we catch that guy or girl on the street with the gun, we're asking for heavy prosecution. We're asking that, you know, these cases move forward, that we get the sort of prosecutions that we need when it comes to gun violence. And as we get this, and as we work closer with our prosecutors, we'll get it. I mean, we have the Eastern District, too, working with us on guns. And Rich Donahue is a fantastic guy. He's helping us on some of these prosecutions. That is the one focus I think we can never lose track of, is taking care of guns.
Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. I want to talk about the increase in hate crimes in the city, increase in rape also. Also, let's talk about Jussie Smollett case and hate crimes and what impact that's going to have on future reporting. Stay with us as we continue our conversation with the chief of the New York City Police Department. Stay with us. Back now with the chief of the New York City Police Department, Terry Monahan. We were talking a moment ago about the recent increase in homicides in the city, but also there's been an alarming increase in the number of hate crimes, anti-Semitism, and other crimes as well. To what we would attribute that?
You know, I'm not exactly sure exactly what we can contribute it to. It's throughout the city, a lot of it's anti-Semitic. When we look at the rise that we're seeing in hate crimes this year, the vast majority is anti-Semitic. So we're up 17 anti-Semitic crimes this year. But a lot of it is property. It's the idea, SWAT stickers on a building, hate emails, hate phone calls. These are serious crimes, and these are crimes that we want to have reported to us. We want the victims to come forward to us because we need to investigate this. And we have one of the greatest hate crime units in the country, and they investigate these things. And we will take it to prosecution. We will make arrests. This is something that in this society nowadays we can't allow to exist. We need to vigorously go after them.
Would you attribute any of this to the current political landscape, the political rhetoric that's coming out, that there's so much divisiveness in this country? Do you feel that this is contributing to this increase in hate crimes?
Over the last couple of years, you know, we have seen the increase. And the divisiveness, it most likely has led to a lot of it. Can I put my finger exactly on it and say for sure? No, but over the last couple of years, we've seen the hate crime incidences going up.
Let me talk about the incident in Chicago this past week of Jussie Smollett, where he has been accused now of faking his attack, homophobic attack. What impact does this have on real incidents of hate crime, making it more difficult to believe?
You know, Superintendent Eddie Johnson, a friend of mine out in Chicago, he stated it very eloquently. It's a disgrace that any individual come out, use a noose, which is a symbol that any African American knows is a symbol of hate, to use that and use it for your own personal gain, to make money. It's something that hopefully Jussie's going to be prosecuted in Chicago. But the message we want to send to people is you got to come forward. Don't not report this because of what happened out in Chicago. If you're the victim of a hate crime, come forward, let us know, let us do the investigation.
Does it, Chief, make it more difficult to believe real hate crimes when you have something like this?
No. When someone comes forward to us, we're going to investigate what they say. And we're going to believe them until I would hope this is abhorrent. This isn't something that happens on a regular basis. We don't see people coming up and faking hate crimes like this. It's such a serious crime that we are going to take it serious, and we're going to investigate it fully.
Okay, let's take a look at the other area where I know there's great concern in the department right now, the uptick in the number of rapes in the city, and you have a special victims squad.
Right. Again, we are increasing the special victims squad. We're adding some more investigators to it. We've taken a deep look at how we run that unit. We have a new commander, Judy Harrison, that we put in charge of it, and she is really doing a great job working on it. Listen, we're encouraging victims and survivors of sexual crimes to come forward. That has been our pledge. We want them. It's been reported that numerous victims don't want to come forward. They don't want to report it. We want the reports. We want to know. And it's going to be up to the victim whether or not they want to move forward with a case. Quite often the victim doesn't want to move forward, and that's their prerogative. Whatever the victim wants to do. We're very victim-centric when we deal with sexual assaults. But we're also with Judy. She's doing a tremendous job of taking a look at our investigations when a victim does want to go forward, to make sure that we are using all the investigative skills that we have, that we are tracking down the individuals responsible and get them off the streets. Because if you target one person, there's a good chance you may target another. We want to make sure that we can...
Now, when we look at numbers, of course, the numbers are up in the area of rape. Could that be attributed perhaps to the Me Too movement? Bringing more women out who are now willing to come forward?
That's it. I mean, studies have shown that large percentages of these sexual crimes are never reported. The Me Too movement, our push to get more victims to come forward has helped increase those numbers. So we're looking for the reports, because we want to investigate these cases if a victim is willing to move forward.
Okay, we've talked about the negatives. Let's talk about the positives. I know you'd like to accentuate about the overall decrease in crime and making New York one of the safest cities. I know this has been something that you've been very high on, neighborhood policing.
Absolutely.
How has this impacted the decrease in crime?
All right, if you take a look at where we were, the city had been decreasing crime for years. And we'd gotten down to a level, and we sort of leveled off. 2014, everyone knows what happened around the world in law enforcement. We had the Eric Garner incident, you had Ferguson incident, and there was a lot of tensions going on between the cops. That's when we made the switch to neighborhood policing. And if I just look at the numbers, the raw numbers of where we were in 2014 when we didn't have neighborhood policing to 2018 where we fully implemented, down 11% in murders from 2014 to 2018, 38 raw numbers. Shootings, and this is what I find the most amazing number, this is that real bellwether crime for us, I believe, down 36% from 2014, down 417 raw shootings. And total crime went down another 10%, over 10,000 crimes. It works. It works having your cops one-on-one with the community, getting to know the people in the community, having that ownership, and having discretion. And that was one of the main things that we did with neighborhood policing, is allow our cops to make decisions. We used to be a very top-down organization, and I don't know the street. I don't know 125th and Lex as well as that cop who's on 125th and Lex every day. Let him make decisions, working with that community to keep that neighborhood safe.
Also, you've been getting some help with your body cameras. But there was a recent decision made by a judge. I think the appellate division decided that you had to make that video available to the public. Is that going to be detrimental to the department? Is that
No, I think that's going to be absolutely fantastic. I think, you know, obviously the unions are fearful of it, but the body cameras that we've seen and the videos I've seen, especially in police-related shootings, it shows what a tremendous job our cops do. It really does, and I think it'd be great for the public to be able to see some of these incidences that happen, that we can put it out there. That transparency is really going to work. I sit at the body cameras, and you can see the raw emotion from a cop who's involved in an incident afterwards, going from sheer terror, where they have to utilize their firearm, to instantly going to lifesaver and life-saving motion, and feel the emotion of that cop trying to save the person that was just moments ago threatening them. It shows you what our cops do. And I think as we start getting some of these videos out to the public, it's really going to help a lot.
So you see it as a positive?
I see it as a
But also in that recent
positive
incident involving Detective Simonson, I believe 5 of the officers were wearing body cameras that were active. That's part of your investigation?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to take a break right now, but when I come back, I want to talk to you about, it looks like legalization of recreational marijuana is going to be a fact here in New York before too long, and how does the police react to that? Stay with us as we continue our conversation with the Chief of the Department, Terry Monahan. Back now with the Chief of the NYPD, Terry Monahan, and we're covering a lot of ground this morning. Let's talk about something that I know Commissioner O'Neill's already spoken out and voiced concerns about, the legalization of recreational marijuana, which seems to be almost a foregone conclusion here in New York.
Yeah, it's something that we're preparing for. It's happening around the nation. It's something that, as a police department, we have some concerns. You know, there's concerns about people driving under the influence of marijuana. You know, the testing isn't, there is some testing, but it's not as good as for looking for drunk driving. So it's something that we have a concern with. Also, under 21, how are we going to force that? Because it's not going to be legal for under 21 to smoke marijuana. And one of the other concerns is smoking in public. You know, that it has to still be a violation because people, you know, don't want to see marijuana smoked, you know, around young kids in playgrounds and parks. So these are all the issues that are going to have to be vetted out.
Are you already making preparations on how to deal with this?
Oh, absolutely. We have conversations regularly. We talk to the mayor's office. We talk to city council. We've let them understand what our concerns are. But we've already really reduced the amount of enforcement that we're doing on marijuana. The amount of arrests are down almost 95% this year from where they were. So we're prepared to move forward. And I'm sure, as we always adapt, this NYPD is probably the greatest at adapting to anything. We'll be able to still keep the city safe.
Let's talk about another problem, opioids.
Opioids,
A crisis in this country and particularly here in the city. How are you dealing with that?
Listen, opioids is not just a problem we can arrest our way out of. We're working with a lot of different city agencies, mental health agencies, to try and get people off the opioid, get the message out there about how dangerous it is, the fentanyl. I mean, we're doing investigations. We're still locking up people who are selling it. We've done it out in Staten Island and with a couple of our federal prosecutors, where dealers who have sold lethal doses of heroin, they've been charged with those homicides. So it's something that we're going to have to work together with a lot of different agencies to try and combat this. It's, you know, there are more people dying of opioid overdoses than homicides and traffic fatalities combined.
What should we be expecting coming up May 13th? You've got that departmental hearing for Daniel Pantaleo in the Eric Garner case almost 5 years ago now. His lawyers are claiming it wasn't a chokehold, it was a traditional way of taking someone down. Where do you see that going?
Listen, it's going to be a tough trial. It's going to be contentious on both sides. We'll let the courts decide. Our courts, you know, it'll be a fair trial. CCRB is doing the investigation. They'll be conducting the trial, and they will make a determination to the facts, which will eventually go up to the police commissioner for a final decision.
Let me pick up on this other thing. New York, of course, still the #1 choice target of terrorists. Where do we stand in our protection against a terror attack in this city? I know we've been lucky. We have to be lucky. They're there. We have to be lucky all the time not to get hit.
Yeah, listen, this is something we worry about every day. It's what keeps me up at night. What ifs, the what ifs that are out there. We have to look not only what happens in the city, but what happens out in the world, the type of threats that are out there. Matter of fact, I was in a conference just yesterday with the Police Executive Research Forum and Department of Justice discussing drones. What's the threat of a drone? How do we take care in case there's a drone in there? Different technologies that we're working on. So we want to be ahead of the game of any potential threat that could come from terrorism. So the city is safe, but we worry about it every day. We have one of the most crack counterterrorism units in the world. JTTF, working with our federal partners, the FBI. We do a lot of work leading down different threats, different leads, but it's something that you always have to stay vigilant on.
Now, you talk about the drones. They are a threat. I believe the last big event in New York was the Thanksgiving Day parade, where you had a threat that you were going to bring them down, or there was a ban on drones.
But it's always, in New York City right now, you cannot fly a drone. Under administrative code, you can't fly drones up in the city. So we now will track any drones within a certain area. We have our own drones now that we put up to be able to monitor crowds at large events and to do crime scenes and accident scenes. And we'll be using them for barricades. We have 14 drones and licensed pilots who operate them. Yeah.
That's interesting. Let me ask you this. Do you feel that the department is transparent enough?
We always can be more transparent. There's the issues with 50A that are going up to legislation. There's a lot that we feel needs to get out. We need trust in this community. The community needs to trust our cops. Our cops need to trust the community. The more that we can get out there, I think the better off we are.
I know the commissioner had appointed a special group, including former federal prosecutor Mary Jo White, that said the department was not transparent enough, needed more accountability. Let me move on to an area. I have to ask you this. Someone who's been in the department almost 4 decades, what would you say, Chief, is the most difficult part of the job?
The most difficult is what we just saw this week, was when we lose an officer. There was nothing worse than that. The feeling that every cop, all 36,000 of us, feel that day. You know, it's like a piece of us dies with the officer that dies. That is most difficult. You never want to see that happen. And as a chief of department, I want to do all I can to prevent that from happening.
You're catching up with the times. I've been covering police a long time, but you're doing something which our president does quite a lot of. You're doing a lot on Twitter. You're getting on social media. The New York Police Department and its chief is on Twitter. You have, like, what, 12,000 followers on Twitter, 12,000 on Instagram?
Right.
What's happening?
It's a great way to get the message out. It lets people know what's going on. You know, we can give them incidents, what's going on an ongoing incident, and it can humanize our cops. I can get stories out about what our men and women are doing every day, whether it's a tremendous arrest they made involving a gun, whether they saved a baby, whether they saved a child. I want to get this message out. One, it's great for our cops to be publicized, and the public gets to see what we do on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so after this program, go and send your Twitter account. Let me give you a handle. It's Twitter or Instagram, at NYPD Chief of DEPT. I think we have it on the bottom of the screen there. So, at NYPD, Chief of Department, and...
I hope to see thousands more after this program.
Okay, maybe you'll get the millions like our president has done. Keep it up. But you also have something else coming up. I mean, it's, once in a while you get a little chuckle. You have some kind of a pizza war going on with your counterpart in Chicago?
Well, Chicago kind of, on Twitter, they put out that, Chicago pizza, better than New York pizza. Any New Yorker knows not a chance. That's not even a real pizza. That's like a casserole or something like that.
No contest. Chief of the NYPD, Terry Monahan, always a pleasure. Hope we have you back here soon. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Marvin. I appreciate it.
And that'll do it for our program this week. If you have any comments or wish to see this broadcast again, log on to our website, pix11.com/newscloseup. I'm Marvin Scott. Thanks so much for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, everyone.